of you to the campus of Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. And I'm excited to see each of you this morning, our distinguished guests, and all of you who are here because you see that it is important. I've said oftentimes in settings like this, we're living in crucial or critical times. But I thought to myself, when are we never living in critical and crucial times? Our gathering on this morning is so very important. Typically, people do not become civically engaged until there's an election. And that's great. We want people to register and turn out and vote. But political education is so very important. We can be distracted by what's happening in Washington, D.C., and miss the very important decisions that are being made right here in Memphis and in Tennessee as a whole. And so I'm grateful for you, and I hope this time together this morning will inspire each of you to go out and help mobilize our community to become more civically engaged outside of an election cycle. And so this is the first of 4, so we hope that gatherings 2, 3, and 4 will continue to grow, to build power, and hold our elected officials in government accountable for that which they've been tasked with doing as we have put our trust in them with our vote and to uphold the oath of their office. And so as we begin on this day, I would that you would bow with me in a brief word of prayer. God of grace, glory, and justice, we are grateful that you have gathered us in this space so that we might do what you require of us, as it is articulated in the Hebrew Scriptures, to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with you. We are grateful for all of the effort and the energy and the collaboration that has gone into making this possible. We're asking that you would grant us your divine enablement in these times so that we might work to the end that justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. And God, we are trusting you to do what only you can do, that you would enable us to do what you have empowered us to do. Bless the duration of this morning and the action that we shall take when we leave this place. We ask all these things in the name of the one God who lives and reigns forever, and all of God's people who could said amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. And now I'd like to call to the podium someone who has become a friend over the past few weeks or past few months that we've been planning these 4 sessions, and it's Ms. Felicia Boyd.
Good morning, and good morning.
Good morning.
I'm so grateful that you are here. As Dr. Bundan said, I'm Felicia Boyd, and my reason for being here today is to share with you the purpose, what is actually behind this communion here. It is the first of 4, as Dr. Bundan and Pastor Turner has said, sessions that is hosted by Faith in Action, building a better community through civic engagement. Faith in Action is a group of civic-minded organizations seeking to encourage civic engagement and active participation from Shelby County residents. The purpose of Faith in Action is to bring a greater awareness of critical issues affecting our community and to encourage civic engagement through conversation, through participation, through action and prayer. With the numerous issues facing our community and the future of our county, Faith in Action is providing us with an opportunity to be better prepared and equipped to not only address issues, that impact us and our families, but also to provide a platform for discussion of these critical issues and an opportunity to develop an action plan for addressing these issues, and the power of prayer to sustain us as we navigate through these issues. On today, Faith in Action encourages you to open your mind, your heart, and your ears to learning, engaging, and creating input for a plan that will prepare and inspire you to become more civically aware and actively engaged in issues that affect you, your family, and our county. Please be aware, I'm sure that most of us in this audience are registered voters. However, Shelby County Voter Alliance and the Shelby County Election Commission have provided us with volunteers to register those who are not registered. You can also change your address if you have not changed your address. On behalf of Faith in Action, we welcome you, not just today, but on the next 3 sessions to become more critically, civically engaged so we can change the direction of where our county is going by being more engaged on those issues that impact us the most. Thank you very much on behalf of Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church and the Black Clarity Collective and the many civic organizations that have come together as a consortium to present this opportunity to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to recognize the organizations that are part of organizing this event. And we'll start with Young, Gifted, and Green. I don't know if anything, Joshua is here. Hi. Yeah. We also have the Shelby County Voter Alliance, that's Ian. And the Shelby County Democratic Party. The National Coalition of 100 Black Women Incorporated, the Memphis chapter. The National Association of Colored People, Shelby County. NAACP. The Memphis Community Against Pollution. And then, of course, the Mississippi Boulevard Social Justice Ministry. If there are ministers, there are people here from the ministry, please stand. The Black 30 Collaborative, and most certainly, out here at Mississippi Boulevard. All right. One of our ministry.
Yeah, she's on there, but they're not.
Who will introduce the speakers, and after the introduction of speakers, we will turn the podium over to them.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our speakers for today are Claire Gardner, Damon Griffin, and Catherine Fraser. Claire Gardner is ACLU Tennessee's first Community Engagement Director. Claire's department works to build long-term political, community, and electoral power for civil liberties and civil rights in our state. Working collaboratively with partners on coalition building, voter mobilization, volunteer engagement, community organizing, leadership development, and more to create widespread support for people-led change movements in Tennessee. Claire first joined ACLU Tennessee in 2012 as a youth outreach intern while studying social work at MTSU. In her 10 years at ACLU Tennessee, Claire's advocacy work has included organizing a Know Your Rights workshop series at Tennessee on interacting with police, creating ACLU Tennessee's Stand Up, Speak Up Youth Activism Manual, which teaches young Tennesseans how to organize in their schools and communities, designing a statewide public education campaign on the abusive practices of private prison giant Civic, working with Black rural voters, in Tennessee to overcome barriers to the ballot box during the 2020 election, and helming a multimedia story collection project highlighting the voices of rural Tennesseans impacted by the money bail system. Damon Griffin is a seasoned attorney skilled in leading government and white-collar investigations, ethics compliance programs, government compliance and enforcement, and trial practice. He is also a preacher who taps into some strong roots to advocate, counsel, and inspire the community. Originally from Seattle, he quickly adapted to the cultural nuances of Southern living after moving to Memphis. Charming and charismatic, he has garnered respect for his unwavering dedication, resilience, and commitment to helping others. Much of his life revolves around sharing his wisdom and experience, braving adversity, and embracing change. Faithful to his vocation, Damon is not just a source of legal advice, but of light, guiding individuals to overcome the challenges they face in their personal and career journeys. He has a JD from the University of Tennessee with a BA in political science from Morehouse College. Catherine Burgess is an award-winning journalist who covers government accountability for MLK 50, Justice Through Journalism. She moved to Memphis in 2018 to cover local government for the commercial field. Previously, she worked in Kansas at the Wichita Eagle and in Jackson, Tennessee at the Jackson Sun. Since coming to Memphis, Burgess has fallen in love with the city, including its friendly people, its rich history, and of course, its food. When not interviewing and writing, she loves crafts, world travel, and spending time with her 4 cats.
Thank you so much. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Now, first thing that I want to say, thank you so much for the introductions. I'm so happy to be here. I met Dr. Bondon through the Shelby County Voter Alliance when my organization decided that in investing in building electoral and political power, we knew that we wanted to do that in West Tennessee and specifically Memphis, which is why I moved here. And so I determined that I needed to connect with organizations like the SCBA and like the Black Clergy Collaborative in order to better understand the needs of the community. And so I just wanted to first say that I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be here today. And I'm really, really moved by the fact that so many people showed up on a Saturday morning to come learn political education and civic engagement. Now I'm in charge of turning the slides. And so that's going to mean that at some points we're going to be on the wrong slides. And so if there's a point where myself or one of the other panelists is talking about something that has nothing to do with what I have decided we're looking at, I would really appreciate if y'all could just holler at me and say, Claire, you're on the wrong slide again. So we could just kind of commit to that together. I would really, really appreciate that. So for today, we are going to discuss some different parts of civic engagement and how we can interact with your government entities and keep them accountable. I'm going to be talking about some of the roles and responsibilities of different municipal entities here. I, again, have been at the ACLU for a long time, but I'm still learning about Memphis and Shelby County, and I'm learning that there are lots of different dynamics, but I'm doing my best to understand exactly how all of those different roles for those entities play out. Then Damon is going to talk about ethical considerations, and then Catherine is going to talk about how you can hold those entities accountable and the different tools and advocacy that you can use. Then we're going to take some time to answer any questions that you'll have. You can eat some snacks, and then we're going to come back together and do some breakout exercises. We have some real-life examples about different situations that have arisen in Shelby County government in recent years. And we're going to work at tables, and Dr. Bonin will talk us through this. But we're going to work at the tables about how you would come up with like an action plan to influence the outcome of that decision. So as we go through our parts of our presentation, please be thinking creatively about how you and the groups that you work with and organize with would be thinking through how you would interact with these entities. What are the ethical considerations that you would want to be reminding them of? And what are the tools that you use to hold them accountable? So I wanted to kind of give a little bit of context about where I am right now. As I sit in front of you and talk about the idea of what a government entity's responsibility is and role in the community. I spent a lot of this week working in Mason, Tennessee, just about 40 minutes outside of Memphis. We had gotten information that the mayor was calling a meeting that had not been publicized to the community and that the actual board of aldermen in the city of Mason were not aware of, to vote on two contracts with Civic, a private prison company, and ICE to potentially open a private immigration detention facility in town. And the community didn't know. We got news about this, I think, on last Friday. The meeting was to be held on Tuesday. Working with people who lived in Mason and organized in Mason, we were able to alert the community. We were canvassing, we were calling, we were texting, we were making sure that the community members understood what was at stake and what the government entities in their town were going to be deciding for the entire community. We were able to turn out over 150 people at this town meeting that was, by all intents and purposes, supposed to be private or secret, and ensure that the decision makers in that community were hearing from residents, we're hearing from community members, we're hearing from taxpayers about what they wanted to see happen in their community. We anticipated that vote for from the Board of Aldermen was going to be one person saying no and 6 people saying yes. We ended up having 2 no's and 2 abstentions, so we got 3 out of 7 yeses for the ICE contract. So from my perspective, I have been working this week with people and working with them to influence their government, to influence the outcomes of decisions, to make sure that their voices are heard, and to ensure that the government entities that are elected to represent them are responding to them. So as I talk about these different roles, I want you to know that I'm so encouraged because I have seen this week examples of community members making it happen and making sure that their electeds are responding to them. Okay, so when I talk with community members about different government entities, I like to use an example of kind of a business. I think of the government as a business. You might have a CEO, you might have a board, and then you might have shareholders in that company. Typically, and we see this in local government here, you'll have the CEO being the elected official, like the county mayor, the city mayor, the superintendent. The board that's holding the county accountable will be the city council, the county commission, the school board, and then the voters are the people who are the shareholders, and so they are able to influence those two bodies. For the city council of Memphis, we have 13 members. 7 are regular district, 6 are super district. There's 1 member per the 7 districts that the city is split up into, but the super districts, there are 3 members per super district. So every person who votes is to vote for 4 city council members, which again, then makes up 13. The city council is in charge of introducing and voting on local ordinances related to city business. They are able to approve or reject the city budget. They make zoning decisions. They provide and monitor agency and departmental oversight. They set and approve taxes. They approve mayoral appointments. They can override mayoral vetoes. And they can now set mayoral and other city official salaries. They make their decisions at regular meetings that they hold on the first and third Tuesdays of the month. They also have committees like Public Works, Budget Committee, Transportation, etc. And in those committee meetings and then the regular meetings, they have to take votes and then are required to get a simple majority. Some decisions do require a supermajority. And Dan will talk about this in a little more detail, but there are also some situations in which members of the city council or other entities are supposed to recuse themselves if they understand that they have a conflict of interest. But we'll be talking about that in more detail. So the mayor, he proposes the city budget. He appoints municipal department heads. He supervises city officers. He ensures the enforcement of city laws, and he can sign or, in some instances, veto city legislation. Now, the Memphis has a strong mayor form of government, so he really is able to act as a chief executive officer. We have seen that, so that gives him a lot of responsibility and ability to make his own decisions. He has the ability to veto something that the city council has done, but then again, they have the ability to override it. So we saw some tension between the city council and the mayor about the decision to change which entity decides city official salary. The city council wanted to have more say in that, so they passed that, then the mayor vetoed that, and then they overrode that veto. Both entities have a 4-year term with a 2-term limit, and they are both up for election in 2027. The county commission also has 13 districts. They are in charge of setting property tax rates. They enact laws. They approve the county budget. They oversee the county election commission, which that is a very important responsibility, particularly here in Shelby County. They also have committee and full commission meetings. They meet on the first and third Wednesdays of the month and first and third Monday of the month. They also have a 4-year term, and they're up for election every 4 years with consecutive 2-term limit. The county mayor is in charge of appointing and overseeing the county departments. That includes things like finance, planning and development, public works, emergency services, agriculture, corrections, health services, community services, as it relates to Shelby County. He has a 4-year term limit with 2 consecutive terms, and that election will be relatively soon in 2026. And finally, the school board has 9 members. They are in charge of business operations of Shelby County Schools, setting school system policies, and hiring and firing the school superintendent. They have monthly business meetings which are open to the public, and public testimony is allowed. Those meetings are also live streamed. They also have what are called monthly work sessions. That is a meeting that is 1 week before the business meeting and is also open to the public. They are re-elected every 4 years. We have now seen that there's an introduction to make these term limited, and that is something that was pushed through with the Shelby County Commission. So I also want, as we're thinking about how do you develop an advocacy plan, to be considering if your target whose decision that you're trying to influence is, for example, the school board. What is maybe they're the entity that you want to persuade. However, maybe the county commission has some decision-making power that you can also try to persuade them as well. And the school superintendent, they're in charge of implementing the board policies and managing the day-to-day operations of the district. They are also, again, CEO of the district and make decisions related to curriculum, staff operations, budget allocation, and then they have to have board oversight on those decisions. They have a 4-year term, but they're contracted by the school board, and as you've seen, the school board is able to end that contract.
Thank you, Claire. Y'all have to excuse me. I'm a pastor and I'm an old trial lawyer, so I'm used to standing up and moving around a little bit. If you don't mind, it's definitely great to see everyone here this morning, as mentioned by Dr. Bondon, just to see so many folks out on a Saturday morning. I know so many could be so many other places on a hot Saturday morning, but it's great to be here at Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church. Pastor Turner, thank you for hosting this awesome event, and Faith in Action and BCC. Also, Shelby County Voter Alliance and Ian and his group, and it's definitely wonderful to be here in Shelby County. 100 Black women as well. See so many familiar faces with crossover, the NAACP as well, and all the other organizations that I may have failed to reference. Thank you for being here and engaging with us this morning. I'm going to talk a little bit about ethics this morning, ethics in government, and just doing the right thing, right? Doing the right thing. I'm here in my individual capacity, but I've had an opportunity to be the Chief Ethics Officer for Shelby County government over a decade ago, I guess. And so I'm familiar with the way government works and ethics and the way it should work and the way oftentimes it doesn't work as it relates to public officials and elected officials and appointed officials operating in their capacity, working for us. They work for us, right? Yeah. That's in the capacity they work. They're supposed to work for us. And so as working for us, we have to hold them accountable. And that's what we have to do. And I was, as a lawyer with Shelby County, I conducted some internal investigations and also did the training for a lot of the employees and also appointed elected officials. Also, when I joined the Department of Justice after that, I was the governmental ethics attorney for the Western District of Tennessee, and in my capacity now with a private company, International Paper, of which I'm not speaking on behalf of International Paper, but I do now advise corporate executives and employees globally on ethics and compliance and conducting internal investigations. So basically, as it relates to ethics, we want to make sure that our elected officials are doing the right thing, right? And that comprises so many different things, what it means to do the right thing. It's very necessary for the one thing that I'll say that I see oftentimes with government officials, elected bodies. The major area of ethics that I see day in and day out and I have to advise on are conflicts of interest. Conflicts of interest, as you've probably seen in the news and everywhere else, they're major. And it's necessary for our government officials to recuse themselves when they do have personal relationships or family relationships or business interests that conflict with the government or the organization that they are sitting on behalf of. It is important for them to recuse themselves. I always say, and I've always said, that disclosure up front when someone does have that conflict of interest, again, they should be notorious about it. They should, oftentimes it should be documented. And in light of where we are in our government right now, where somebody might say, well, you know, ethics don't really matter. I mean, look what's going on in our government, right? Am I the only one that's probably thinking that? It's okay to say it. And so the reason why ethics matters is because our culture will live on beyond any kind of term of somebody's position in government. The culture of your organization, the culture of your government, that reputation will live beyond that. And so ethics does matter, and it should matter to us. Another area that I see is extremely important, where we have to hold our government officials accountable, is accepting gifts and entertainment. Accepting gifts and entertainment. Oftentimes we see sometimes government officials attending events that contractors or developers or individuals that have business before those bodies. We see them at various events of those folks who have business before them. Now, attending may not be a big deal, right? It may not be a big deal. The problem that takes place is when they're attending those events and might be accepting gifts from those officials, or even in situations where the expense that is paid out for them to be there, the dinner, the ball game, or whatever it is, if it's an excessive amount of money, then we have a problem. I would submit where they're accepting gifts and entertainment kind of does fall into the conflicts of interest, because of those individuals have to appear before them, and they have to accept, or they have to vote, or they have to approve certain measures that might involve those individuals, right? So that's why recusal or even disclosure up front is absolutely necessary. Another area that I want to mention that you'll hear a little bit more about in a few minutes, and as you probably sit down in your groups, is the open meetings. Open meetings. We have to make sure our government officials, elected officials, are complying with Tennessee state open meetings laws. Making sure that we heard earlier about the example in Mason, Tennessee. We have to make sure that our government officials are open and transparent with their meetings and discussions related to public business. I was about to say, next slide. We have to preserve public records in accordance with our local laws and ordinances and state law in preserving those documents. That falls in line with being transparent with as it relates to those documents. But an area that I see, and we all see, we saw the media here earlier, but I can't say, and I'm not going to bring up any specific governing bodies, but I can't talk about how embarrassed I have been at times when watching the folks that we elect fall well below the area where they should as it relates to their decorum and professionalism, not only with their staff, but in the public's eye. When we see them on television and doing and saying any old thing on television or before the audience in those settings, professional decorum, and that is a major part of keeping our government honest. These are all factors that we have to consider when we are supporting these bodies or even voting as well. In an area that city government and county government, and even the school boards in our area, really we really must hold them up to a heightened level as it relates to the formal process for an ethics and compliance program. We need to make sure that they have a process for filing complaints, a process for filing grievances and reviewing matters and conducting legitimate investigations that come before them, and also resolutions as it relates to those situations that may arise. So we have to make sure that those governing bodies have those things in place. And then conducting annual ethics training. There needs to be a training program. Every aspect of Shelby County government, federal government that I was part of, we always had annual trainings that were in place, even in the private sector as well. When I was at FedEx and International Paper, we make sure that there are ethics training that is annual in place. And this is really important for our elected officials. You never want to hear, the one thing I can say, we should never hear an elected official, and if you hear them say this on the news, I think your ears should perk up when they say, I didn't know that it was a conflict of interest to vote on something that, I have an interest in the contract, or I disclosed that. Well, if you disclosed it, you shouldn't be voting on it. So we have to make sure that these government officials and elected officials are standing behind it. And yes, it is high pressure job. They were elected to this position, right? They stood before each and every one of us before we voted and said that they could handle the job. Well, coming with that job is standing to ethical standards, and we must hold them accountable to those ethical standards. I'm going to pass the baton over to Catherine Burgess. Thank you.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay? All right. As my fellow panelists have said, I'm so grateful to be here today. I know some of the people in the room through my work. And yes, no? Okay, better? I'll just hold on to it. I know some of the people in the room through my work, and I know some of the organizations through my work, so it's really neat to get to be here and to talk to everybody about how some of the tools that I use as a journalist to attempt to hold the government accountable are really tools that were created for and can be used by any constituent. So I'm going to go ahead and head over. I wanted to talk through some definitions real fast of constituency and advocacy. And I bring these up because, as Damon said, our government is intended to serve its people. It's intended to serve the people who elect them, and the government should be listening to the advocacy of the people about particular causes or proposals. So just those definitions up there to remind us that the government is intended to serve the people and needs to hear from the people on what it is that they want the government to do. So I wanted to talk through, first of all, two of the main ways that I do my work and that I find out whether or not government entities or individuals in government are behaving themselves. Whether or not they are staying in alignment with ethics, whether or not they are following the law, and just generally what they're getting up to. So the first of those is open records. Open records can range from financial disclosures, where a candidate lists out every single person who has donated to their campaign. It can include receipts of travel. If your mayor has gone on a trip to another city, it can include all his receipts. It can include a contract, say with ICE or another prison entity. It can include a contract with whoever is doing your health care at a jail. So many different things. So I've included a little QR code over here, which hopefully y'all can scan with your phones. If not, I'm happy to tell you all about it later. But that should take you to the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press for their Open Government Guide for Tennessee. And it is a phenomenal resource that I use regularly that kind of walks through what sort of records you can request, what you need to put in your records request, and so many other things. Today, I'm going to kind of run through some just frequently asked questions and give you the answers that I've got. The questions up here. So first of all, who can request records? In Tennessee, any citizen can request records. They might ask for your driver's license or some proof that you are a Tennessee resident, but any Tennessee resident can request records. You certainly don't have to be a journalist. On what kind of records you can request? You can request access to any records that are deemed to be records of public bodies. So that's your city council, that's your county commission, that's also your Memphis Area Transit Authority, your Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. Those are the entities that have been given government responsibilities. As for how an agency has to respond, well, first of all, where do you go to request records? Usually I try to figure out who owns the records. If I want a contract with a healthcare provider at the jail, I'm going to go to the Shelby County Sheriff's Office because they run the jail. In some cases, multiple entities might own those records. Recently, I was trying to get a copy of letters between the Shelby County Sheriff's Office and the Shelby County Juvenile Court. So in that case, I went and requested it from both of them because one of them was going to be want you to have those records. So, go as many places as you can to try to ask for them. Next, how does an agency have to respond? I'm just going to read you the law. It's very straightforward. If records are readily available, they should be provided promptly. However, if it is not practicable, I'm not sure to say that, for the records to be made promptly available, the records custodian is required to take one of the following actions within 7 business days. Make the records available to the requester, deny the request in writing, providing the basis of the denial, or provide the requester a written explanation of the time reasonably necessary to produce the records. And I can't tell you how many times I'll put in a record request and I will not hear back within the 7-day period required by law. Happens across the board with many different agencies. So that leads to what if an agency says no or doesn't respond. Sometimes an agency will go ahead and just send the records right over. If they don't respond, I usually write back and I tell them what the law says. I say you have 3 options. Ooh, can you still hear me? Okay. I say you have 3 options here. You can give me the records. You can say no and tell me why in state law you're saying no. Or you can say, hey, I need 1 month to redact social security numbers. That's reasonable. So you need to get one of those 3 answers. Sometimes the agency will say no and it just doesn't seem like it makes sense. They need to give you an explanation in state law. And if it doesn't make sense, you can push back. So when an agency says no or doesn't respond at all, I usually kind of have a 3-tiered approach. First, I like to start with private pressure. I email whoever the records custodian is, if I have a contact at the agency, and I say, hey, you said this, that doesn't sound right. Can you explain further? Or I say, hey, it's been 8 business days and I haven't gotten a response. You need to give me one of these 3 responses. Sometimes that works. The second tier, if that doesn't work, is I go to the state comptroller's office. The state comptroller has an office of open records counsel, which is available for any citizen. It's not just for journalists. And sometimes I'll forward them something and say, hey, I requested, I'll give you my most recent example. I asked Memphis Area Transit Authority for resumes of CEO applicants. They said no. So maybe that is something I can't get. Maybe it's something I should be able to get. I don't really know. So I wrote to the comptroller and I said, hey, is this something they should be giving me or not? And if it is something they should be giving me, you can loop the comptroller in and they can put a little pressure on the agency. Sometimes that works wonders. And last but not least is public pressure. A great example of public pressure recently is, again, the Memphis Area Transit Authority had a financial audit. And initially, the city denied that audit to several journalists, myself included, and said, no, it's attorney-client privilege. Attorney-client privilege is a real thing, but no attorneys were involved in the production of this audit. So what I was doing, I was working through my first step of private pressure. I called someone at the city and I said, hey, this is really dumb. We're not that stupid. And I also sent an email back and I said, hello, can you tell me which attorneys were responsible for the production of this audit? But we also saw public pressure. There was a local constituent who does a lot of advocacy work and he posted all over his Facebook, hey, they won't give me the audit. There was also a local news station that wrote an article about it. And shortly after all these things occurred, both the private pressure and the public pressure, the audit was released to the public. So that can really work wonders. A few other things that are worth noting is you can request an estimate of costs. Sometimes they will charge you costs to produce the records if someone has to go and really dig through a bunch of files. You can always request an estimate, and I always like to try to get it lowered. If they have something really high, you can say, well, why does it cost that much? Can I have it in an electronic format instead of printing it out? Can maybe I come inspect the records instead of you providing them to me? There's a lot of different options. There are certainly exceptions. Attorney-client is one I mentioned before. Things can be redacted, such as social security numbers. And then also for law enforcement, there are some safety considerations. So whatever the exception is, I always ask them to just provide state law. And if they say no based on state law, I go read the state law. And I'm certainly no attorney. But you can kind of see if it makes sense or not. And if it doesn't make sense to you, then you can go to an actual attorney, the comptroller's office, and ask for their opinion. So that's open records. I could usually spend all day on that. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time. But I'm going to go ahead and move to open meetings. Who has to have open meetings? A governing body is defined as members of any public body which consists of 2 or more members with the authority to make decisions for or recommendations to a public body on policy or administration. It includes other bodies to which governmental or public functions are delegated. So that's your city council, that's your county commission, but it's also your MATA board, it's your MLGW board, it's your school board. Unfortunately, a mayor and his staff meeting, that does not constitute a public meeting. But if it's your legislative bodies, their meetings should be public if 2 or more of them are together discussing matters relevant to the meeting or to the board. Anyone can attend public meetings. There are a few exceptions, which are attorney-client privilege, again, administrative functions like the mayor's office. Also, I love public meetings because I learned so much from attending them. You can really learn like what's going on behind the scenes. You can learn who's advocating for what, how people are thinking, what they're going to vote for, why they're going to vote that way. But public meetings are also useful because they often include a public comment process, where you can go, you can get usually a little comment card, you fill out your name and what item you're going to comment on, and then you can go up and you can make that comment to whatever the board is. My understanding is that there's nothing in the law requiring that a public comment process be allowed, but most entities, at least in the Memphis area, do have that process. So that's a great way to get up there and advocate for whatever it is that you care about. Let's see. Just 2 more things I'm going to go over really quickly. I mentioned public comments, but there also is a comment period required in the law for a lot of different changes, whether that be some sort of like a federal change or if that be a land use change. The most recent example I can think of is when the Shelby County Health Department was considering granting permits for the permanent turbines at XAI. There was a federally mandated, I believe it was federally mandated, might have state mandated, so correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a mandated public comment period where the health department had to receive public comments. And they didn't just have to receive them, they had to look at every single one, put them in as part of the public record, and respond to them. So there are a lot of instances where this public comment period is required, and it can make quite a bit of a difference if you want to log one of those public comments. Not only can you make a public comment, but as I said, public comments then become part of the public record. If you want to request all of the public comments that were made on XAI's turbines, you can do that through a public records request. That can be a great way to find people who are like-minded, to find out if people are generally favorable or unfavorable towards a thing. That's really, really useful too. And then relationships. I think we all know how useful relationships are in many different things. I use relationships a lot in information gathering, finding out whether there's something coming up that perhaps has not been publicly noticed. Hello? Okay. Whether something is coming up that has not been noticed appropriately to the public. Maybe someone can tell me that that's happening, and then I can start to get the word out. So it's very useful in terms of finding things out, but then also, of course, in doing that advocacy. I've seen so many people who will just text everybody they know and say, hey, this thing is happening. If you care about it, please make a phone call. Please send a comment. Please show up at this meeting in Mason. It's a really powerful tool to make a difference. And that's really all I've got for now. I think I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Baldwin.
And Catherine, those of you provided some tools that all of you can use to hold people accountable. So now we want to have questions for you. Are there? Ian has his hand right up. I'm going to start asking the question because I think we sometimes assume people know things, and we don't want you to think that any question is off limit. I'm going to ask Damon to explain what does it mean to recuse.
As an attorney, I overly advise, and when I was an advisor many years ago to county commissions back then, which none of them are sitting on right now, so I'll put that out there. But I would even say make it notorious. So you announce that you are recusing yourself, and you get up and leave. And that's the way I would advise. somebody might just disappear or not appear, and everybody's like, why aren't they? But you should make it notorious.
All right, this is directed toward the person that just got through speaking. I remember last year, so many things happened in 2024. When our illustrious Supreme Court gave a decision in a politician's case that had taken a bribe. And the Supreme Court came back and said, well, if you take the bribe after the vote has been taken, then it's okay. I don't know if you remember that. It was like in the spring of last year. So my question to you is, how would that Supreme Court decision impact bribery in our country?
I'm not familiar with the specific case. I don't know if you're referring to Menendez, the Menendez case or not.
It wasn't them.
Okay, I'm not sure, and I'm not familiar with those circumstances, but bribery is not legal. It remains to be not legal.
After the vote.
Good morning, I'm Lasagna Hall, and I actually am so delighted to be here with you this morning. I serve as the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Mayor Lee Harris in the county, so I appreciate the information provided today. I just had 2 points that I wanted to just make regarding Claire's comments about meetings. Public meetings in the county are publicized. They have to publicize that at least 48 hours in advance of the meetings. That includes county pension meetings. Every meeting that's held has to be posted 48 hours in advance. So my concern from the citizens is that I only see, because I'm there at those meetings with you, Catherine, we only see a movement when it's a hot button item. But there are a host of items that are going before the bodies regularly that we don't see citizen engagement. So I applaud that, but I encourage our citizens to just watch those agendas, because there are more than just NADA, there's more than just XAI. Every item that they deliberate impacts you and your family. So I would just encourage you to do that. And my question, Damon, can you speak to and define gratuity disclosures that are added to the contracts?
Jamie, before you respond, I'd like to say the 48-hour notice is not enough. Unless you're looking at that all the time, there's no way the average citizen will know to come to those meetings. So that's why they don't show up, because they don't know to come. You have to be constantly looking for those notices. And so I would encourage you to change that requirement. Maybe give us a week, and then we show up.
Ms. Hall, can you re-ask your question? And are you speaking, is your question in the context of county government?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I apologize and thank you for that clarification. The question is, can you speak to gratuity disclosures? Because each contract has to include a gratuity disclosure, and I know you know what gratuity disclosure is, and that helps the citizen know when a company has provided any benefits or parties or anything like that. So if you could speak to that, so everyone that comes forward.
Now, you'll have to excuse my knowledge or my memory of the county ordinance, on the county ethics ordinance, which I actually helped amend some of it, because it's been over a decade since I've been there. But gratuity disclosures are disclosures that contractors have to make if they have provided monetary gifts or any other types of, I have a prosecutor's voice and a preacher's voice, so I can talk louder if this mic is not working right. But they're supposed to disclose those types of gifts. It's not just monetary, but any type of gift that they have received or given, and that goes in both directions. When a contract is before the governing body.
I'm going to
protecting a conservation easement on the Memphis riverfront.
Yes.
And there are all I have so many questions for y'all, I can hardly say it, but I'm going to restrict myself right this moment. First of all, I have to tell you that the comptroller told me that he couldn't provide documents and that my only alternative was to sue in court to get those documents, which I found pretty astonishing. But all that aside, in Memphis, I think we're really faced with a lot of public-private bodies that have been established, and those bodies seem to be pretty good at covering up information. And I wonder if you have suggestions about how to deal with that, to get information in time to make changes.
If I could just chime in on that, I would say relationships. There are a couple private bodies I can think of that I'm not allowed in the room, but if I know somebody in the room who will talk to me, even on background, I can find out what happened. And that anybody can do that. Anybody can build those relationships and try to find out, okay, these are the people in the room, this who's who might be friendly to my cause. Hey, would you have a coffee with me? And that could lead to you finding out more information. It's hard though, it's really hard. Especially when you do reach the point with public records where people are saying you need to sue, and not everybody has those resources. Most of the newsrooms I've worked in have not had that resource. And that's, I think, where public pressure can really come into play. Blast them on your Facebook. Get your friends to blast them on your Facebook and say they won't provide these documents. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Could I just make one more? This involves actually building permits that are invalid. They've submitted improper deeds. They've submitted improper documents of ownership, and they are down there building a $200 million building with all of our money on land that's protected by conservation easement. And the press has been silenced. I think there's an amazing power of wealth in this community that is really being. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Burgess and Ms. Gardner and Mr. Griffin, for the time that you had for today. I was just taking down notes as we were going through this. So I really was interested in the ethics conversation, and particularly open records, because when you look at both of those, you can see ultimate accountability that can actually happen. You have access to quantitative data, and then you can make actionable decisions. So I really wanted to ask a question around the formal process for addressing when issues are happening. So like Ms. Gardner, you had brought up about Mason County going there, issues with the for-profit jails that's coming into a space. We know that can be a hindrance, a major hindrance to a community. You brought up about your experience, Mr. Griffin, and then Ms. Burgess, clearly with records and things. Let's just be real, that's where the meat of our work goes. So if someone is having an ethics issue, is there a place from the governor's office, controller, any of these departments that list all the formal what is the formal process for submitting an issue? Then two, if it does come back conclusive that there was an ethical violation, where's the teeth behind it? From a behavioral stance, is that person removed? Are they sanctioned? What's the punishment that comes along with it? I know, I tried to include all three of you. Everyone tends to attack the attorney as they go into these, but we wanted to make sure that everybody was in this, because I would love to see, for all these departments, is there a place that the general community could go to and just say that, hey, I have an issue with the things that were said. That was not what was discussed. That's not why we put you there. The behavior is bad. What's that formal process?
Yeah. So I think I hate to say the normal thing that a lot of attorneys say, but it depends on the body. In some instances, overall, state law has an ouster clause, and I don't even remember what Tennessee Code annotated section or anything, but the Tennessee state law does set forth a manner of which ousted from office, and it outlines what you need to do, and it's filing a petition, I believe, in Chancery Court, in State Chancery Court, which would obviously mean getting an attorney to file that. But there are certain elements that have to be met to bring forth a legitimate claim of ouster, and it's pretty difficult, but it can happen if it's a personal conduct issue involving an elected official or appointed official. And so there's the ouster. That's the top, for in our state. That's, I'd say, outside of criminal felony situation, that would be top. And also, when there's a criminal felony in place, that's more fuel for an ouster proceeding to take place as well. Now, if we go a little bit lower into like county government, city government, as it relates to commissioners or council members, they have their own processes for ethics complaints. I remember with the county, and again, I'm dating myself, and I know the ethics ordinance has been amended a few times in the last 12 years since I've been there, but I do know there's an ethics ordinance in the county that has procedures for filing an ethics complaint, and I know there's some revamping with the ethics commission, but the ethics ordinance is still applicable to county officials, and so there's a formal process. If you saw one of my slides, I said usually most bodies have a formal process for filing a complaint. They have a formal process for filing a complaint, and it's public record. You should have access to be able to see the process for filing an ethics grievance or a complaint with the county government. City council, I'm not as clear on. I would look at the city ordinances to see what takes place for filing an ethics complaint against city officials, including city council. But I'd be highly surprised if it's not in the city ordinance on how to do so. That's the kind of, again, that's a formal process that is out there, and I'm pretty sure there's a formal process. And if you can't get it through the city ordinance, you can contact the city government to get the process for filing an ethics complaint against a city official.
I would also add, and I want to be mindful of the space that I'm in and not cross any lines, but there's another way that you can hold those officials accountable is through the election process. And again, not going to cross any lines, but what we can talk about as far as electoral work, but from the C3 side, as it relates to civic engagement and making sure that voters are educated, I think that the work that we do to ensure that voters understand what has happened and understand the ethical concerns or outcomes of those sorts of formal complaints is extremely important when we end up in the season where we are deciding who is going to represent us in these positions. And I don't want to say more because I don't want to get into the C4 side. I'll just say it can be very hard to hold a government official accountable. Even I can think of an official who I will not name who was found to have violated the county charter and done an ethics violation years ago. He's still in the same role he was then. And so it can be very hard. I see there as being levels of accountability. Of course, there's ouster, which is hard to achieve, as Damon said. There's also not electing them next time. And there's also publicity, just publicizing what a person has done and if it is unethical, so people know maybe don't do business with them again. Maybe don't allow that person to handle your public dollars. So there's definitely different tiers, and I just try to remind myself of that because it is really, really hard to get to kind of those top tiers, whether that be ouster or whatever. It's hard. But there are lower levels of accountability that can make a difference in making sure that person, say, does not have as much access to county dollars as they did previously, or public taxpayer dollars.
And I would be remiss if I didn't say the reason we're here is to talk about civic engagement. And so filing complaints an individual can do, but there is power in numbers. We can get people to do what we want them to do if we do it together. It's more than just one complaint.
Public Records Act and the Open Meetings Act is written that it's supposed to be enforced by us individuals and individually. So that means, according to the Office of Open Records Counsel, we're supposed to hire an attorney and deal with it in a local court. Regrettably, statewide, we may have 4 or 5 of these kinds of attorneys. And they're all about $500 an hour. The University of Memphis quit teaching these laws in our only law school about 10 years ago. And so what we have is the Office of Open Records Counsel at the state that really can do nothing for us but give us opinions. They can't help us enforce these violations. They can't introduce us to attorneys. And next week will be the first time in 5 years that the state's advisory committee on open government is going to meet. They haven't been meeting in 5 years. This is an appointed committee. 16 of its 17 members are from Nashville and Knoxville. I've already signed up to present public comment at this group's meeting because this group's responsibility is to advise the Office of Open Records Counsel. And they haven't been doing it. And so when we talk about enforcement, there is no enforcement. And it gets back to our local public law school. It gets back to our state legislators. And it trickles down to those of us, especially our most marginalized, that can't afford to enforce these laws. So that's my input.
Are there other questions?
Heather.
So quick question for Claire mainly. In the situation with the city of Mason, again, what would be a good solution for calling them out, to holding them accountable that this is not acceptable in terms of not having a properly published open meeting? What recourse would we have as the public to hold them accountable that it doesn't happen again? Or if it happens again, is there some sort of coalition or committee or process to follow to hold specific bodies, elected officials accountable?
Yes, absolutely. So currently, the ACLU actually yesterday sent a letter to the mayor of Mason and the Board of Aldermen stating that we believe that they have improperly recorded the vote on the ICE contract as having passed by violating their own city charter, which says that they must have a majority of the members present, which would be 4 votes out of 7. They only achieved 3 yes votes out of 7, because again, we had 2 no votes, 2 abstentions. And so their own law says that means that law did not, or that contract cannot be signed. However, their city attorney said is using a different standard and saying that the contract was passed, they have signed it, they're moving forward, and we are now saying that that is illegal. We are violating open record requests for all the communication between ICE or Civic and the city of Mason. And what we are doing with our partners is working on canvassing the community. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To put pressure on the mayor that he must cease immediately with those illegal contracts, as well as the different board of aldermen, particularly those who abstained or voted no on that contract.
So it still comes from the people.
It's still community. Exactly. So it's we have our what my organization is doing legally, but we know that unless we keep up the pressure that is coming from the community, specifically the people who live in Mason, who live in Tipton and Maine County, and ensure that they are contacting over and over their board of aldermen, their mayor, and saying, we do not want this. You did not give us an opportunity to read the contracts. We still have not seen the contracts. We were not informed about this meeting, and our representatives did not pass this. That is what actually we have found changes the mind of the elected official. Or if not, again, you get into the position of what is the outcome of a community that knows that they have not been heard come the next election.
And so basically that comes back to voting
Excuse me.
them back into office.
We can't hear.
Oh, sorry.
So the electoral voting him back into office is basically gonna come from the people or not. That's the end result.
From my perspective, particularly as an organization that has for over 100 years used the court system to protect our rights, I think we can see, and to the point about recent Supreme Court decisions, that we can't always count on the law. I apologize, Dan, but we cannot always count on the law to do what is right. We have to have the power of the people to lead ourselves where we want our government to take us.
Thank you. We have a question for that.
Just one comment.
We have a question here.
Go to court. Because the court can make them redo their process. Because I was
Excuse me, sir. I'm gonna have to stop you right there. Not just because I got the mic, but because you said to go to court, and I'm tied up in court right now. And before you say don't do that, I want to apologize to you this morning because I was sitting in the back and you told me to move to the front, and I told you I didn't want to because I was trying to hold my peace, and I've been holding my peace as long as I can. But to be frank, I didn't want to hear nothing nobody on this panel had to say, and I really didn't want to be here. But I'm here because I'm a witness of what's going on, my lived experience. And so I done got to the point where I'm like, Birdman, ain't no more talking. It's not. And thank y'all for your presentation, but I want to apologize to you. Thank you, I stayed, and I want to participate in this discussion. And I'm here representing Memphis Shelby County. And I don't vote now, and I don't plan on voting, and I'm going to tell you why. My first reason came from, okay, well, I got an address, reason why I said I'm Memphis Shelby County. My address on file right now is right here in this zip code, right here in North Memphis. And my address on my license is in Carville. That's where I was born and raised. But I raised my family here in Memphis. But I'm standing right here as a widow. Why? Because I'm tied up in court. Because as a marginalized person, I know ain't nobody got my best interest in mind. In saying that I'm a black woman, I've been raised in the church 30 years, been a ministry participant, and I know that black women in the church, that's why I see all the politics lived out. I don't have a voice. And so I've been to the city council, I done talked to the county commission. In the past, my experience as an advocate, I done presented publicly, spoke to the school board, and I done did it all by myself because I know it's a demographic that's invisible that don't nobody really fool with. And I believe that since there's people in this room, the reason I stayed is, yeah, we got this exercise, this table talk and this case study, but I got my own case study. And if we in this room, we really want to do something, then I'm making myself available to present this conflict of interest that I believe is going on right here in this city. Like I said, I done talked to everybody but the mayor. I done reached out to him. He done told me to come to one of his meetings, but have not spoken with him. I done talked to the county commission. I done talked to the city council. And now I'm talking to y'all. What we gonna do? And if y'all got the time, I got the evidence right here. Evidence right here on my case. Been tied up for over a year and a half. Long enough for my husband to die. And me to try to gain my footing to even take care of our 3 children, 1, 3, and 4. Still trying to hold off this, whatever it is I'm trying to address, but still, I don't want to go to another meeting. And to be quite frank, I don't know that I got it in me to even make it to September the 20th. I'm only 34 years old, but I got sense enough to know I even got more days behind me than I got in front of me. And that's sad to say, but it's the truth. I don't trust none of y'all, but I trust God. That's why I'm offering myself right now. If y'all want to do something, let's do it. I don't want to leave this church without nothing being done. That's why I'm saying what I got to say. So if anybody want to use their work time, y'all can go over this exercise. But if you want to get something done, come to this table. And let's get some work done. Black Clergy Collaborative, 100 NAACP, all these folks y'all name. Thank y'all for coming. But if y'all want to do something, let's do it.
Thank you, and I accept So the meeting is not about individual issues.
This is
This
something
the
that
meeting is about
impacts
collective
everybody,
issues.
collectively.
We're here about
It is.
collective issues.
It is.
So, stay in our talk.
Hello, my name is Janice Mundy, and I do stand in unity with this young lady getting her help, be it individual or community or not, because it takes the individual to make up the community. And so if you would have representatives here from these various organizations who claim they offer help, they need to help her. I also want to echo what the man earlier said about how the state comptroller really don't do anything to help us. I too have gone to the state comptroller. I went to the state comptroller to get records, to get assistance with records when I couldn't get records from MATA. I've been trying to get records from MATA since 2022 and got no help. And when I contacted the state, they basically look at me as a nobody and basically offered me no help. And so I think we need like a community team that we can work together as this community team so that when we can't get our elected officials to do our job, we can go together as a group, as a community, to say why we can't get the records that we're asking for from the, or get support from the state controller from the records that we're asking for. Also, I recently asked for records from, last year I started asking for records from MLGW. MLGW has this compressed natural gas station that they opened up in the Hollywood community. They first put that compressed natural gas station there about 15 years ago with the idea that they were going to convert their working fleet over to compressed natural gas fleet. Well, they never had the budget or approval to do that, but they put that compressed natural gas station here in the black community of Hollywood. 3 years ago, out of nowhere, 24/7, all these Amazon trucks, 18-wheelers, tractors and everything just started running through our neighborhood 24/7. Then I found out from someone who had retired from MLGW that they were using the revenue to fund MLGW retirement account. Well, I have written MLGW to come in to inspect those records. First, they responded saying that, okay, give us time, we're going to get with you. And they kept every week or so, they said, we're still working on it. Then they finally said, okay, we're redacting the information. As soon as we get the information redacted, we'll give it to you. So I emailed them back and asked them, these are contracts. What are you redacting? Basically, end of conversation. That's been months ago. Still no access to these records about contracts with Amazon and all these other entities coming through the neighborhood, moving our neighborhood, MLGW attaining revenue, but we are residents are getting nothing. So again, the state, I came to this meeting with the idea that I would learn how to hold the government accountable. And even though I'm hearing things, I feel like this lady that I'm not getting concrete resolutions as to how to do this. I attended Steve Cohen meeting last week. I have never written Steve Cohen, contacted Steve Cohen office and got any help, regardless of what the issue is. And so I feel like her. At this point, I don't know what else to do. I'm almost agreeing with the man that's in jail. More people need to show up to Paul Young's house and stand outside his house and demand help. So we're not getting it.
Can I comment?
Is that Candace?
It is.
Hey, go ahead.
This is a Q&A period, and I just, this engagement is important for everyone. We all have concerns and frustrations with our elected officials, and I do think that the individual that said, and I can't remember who it was, that why you're here, why a lot of us are here, I can't speak for anyone personally, but these organizations that are here do put pressure on elected officials to respond. And are they able to get them to respond 100% of every desire and request that is made? Probably not. But they do push the needle to get them to respond and to do things. And I think that's what this is. Like, action means pushing them to put pressure on them to make a decision, to listen. When it's one individual, I agree with you, ma'am. When you're one person, you're not as powerful when you're 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 knocking on doors. When some neighborhoods do have issues, what do those neighborhoods do? And I've seen it. And when I was in government, they go to that county commissioner's office They go to that city council person's office who supposedly that's what we do as a church. We put pressure on. We tell them, look, we are a church in your district. You need to listen to us. They're parking trailers on our street. They're dumping mattresses on tires on our street. So don't give up and say, and I know it's frustrating because I'm a pastor dealing with the same kind of stuff. And we just have to continue to put pressure on them. And yes, they do move. And yes, they do make decisions. 100% no. And that's what gets frustrating. But we have to continue to put that pressure on them.
Are there other questions?
You saying don't give up, and we ain't giving up.
Ma'am, let's respect everyone in the room and allow everyone in the room to be able to ask questions.
Somebody's respiratory system not to give
I understand.
up when they breathing in
absolutely
and stuff
understand.
in the environment. You can't tell my respiratory system not to give up when
I
I'm
understand.
breathing in
I understand. Let's respect everyone in this room today.
This is respect. Respect
Thank
me.
you.
I'm
Thank you.
using
We
my
are.
voice, and I ain't got much time.
Thank
I told
you.
you I ain't got much time left, and I'm wasting my voice right now talking to you. You telling me to respect somebody else. I say, call the pastor. No, call the pastor, Pastor Turner. I'm sure he knows the mayor. Get the mayor down here right now and let's talk. Use your people power. We got relationships. How many of y'all here know the mayor? Call him right now and tell him to get somebody down here and let's talk.
We appreciate you. Thank
That's
you.
what I'm saying. Get on your phone. If you know the mayor, call him and tell him to let's
Thank
talk.
you, ma'am. Thank you.
Understand what I got to say. Somebody text the pastor and let him know. Call
Ms.
the
Bonnie,
mayor.
please continue.
We're going to continue. Okay, you have a question? Go ahead.
What do the politicians, local to federal, have to do to get the trust of the people? Because I don't trust no politicians no more. It's out there. I don't have no trust for any of the politicians.
I agree with her. And I don't know where she's been, but when they have meetings, Justin Pearson, that's what they're talking about.
Nobody knows.
And the mayor
Including the politicians.
bought. Yes,
So I will say, and I'm not trying to defend politicians, but politicians are good. And so there are, just as there are good people, there are bad people. And so there are good politicians and there are bad politicians. We can't lump them all into the same group. We have to take people where they are and what they do and as they present themselves. That's all I can say as it relates to that. As to trust, I think you have to take every individual and assess what it is their record, what they're doing, what they want to do, or what they plan to do, and then make a decision based on that assessment. And we can't.
I'm basing this on the fact that when I needed help, and I went all over this city trying to get help, I was homeless for 2 years. I was in the street for 2 years because I couldn't get nobody in this city to help me.
So
we'll send you to a homeless shelter. I got assaulted and ended up in the trauma center. Still could not get no help getting out of the street. That's what I'm talking about. How can you put your trust in somebody when you can't get no help from nobody?
I hear what you're saying. And I want to say something. I want to echo something Damon said. These organizations, and we all are working, and we can't do everything, but we can do our best. When you come to us, for example, this meeting is an educational information. We're not going to be able to solve every individual problem in this meeting. But if you want to talk to us outside the meeting, you need to do that. And then if we can help you, we will. Sometimes we won't be able to. But these meetings, this is not the place for us to sit down with each individual and solve your individual issues. This is the place to educate and inform and to talk about the collective work that we can do together. And when I say collective work, I mean it is not enough to have proximity power. It's not enough for me to say, I know Paul Young and I can call him up. That's my power. But if we're going to have collective power, we all know Paul Young and we can call him up and do it together. So don't rely on just what you can do as an individual. We need to start talking about what we can do as a group.
That's true.
Absolutely.
And we are a grassroots organization focused on improvements with light, gas, and water. But I'm here today to say that we as the citizens have got to do a better job educating ourselves on who we put in these positions. We got to stop getting the ballots and letting somebody else tell us who to vote for. We have got to do our part on investigating and making sure that people are just not good PR folks lying, but we got to look and see who they are true as individuals. We need some grassroots folks in these positions who don't have conflicts of interest going all over the place. We've put too many people in office with all these conflicts of interest. So we need to come together. This is about civic engagement, right? So we need to come together and do a better job on who we are putting in these offices. And watch the games that are being played when these elections come about. Because 26 is here. It's here now. So let's be about our business and who we're putting in these seats.
Thank you. We've allowed you to do that. It's been helpful, I think, to hear what you have to say. We have 20 minutes left in the program. Before we leave, I want to make sure we do a call to action. There's something we think we can ask all of you to do to take action and be a part of. But I think I saw a couple of more hands. Ms. Avalon and then this gentleman here. If you come forward. Okay.
Each one here represents a community. We've been given great ideas of how to open doors to the things that we need to happen in our community. Each one here has concerns in their community. One person can't do it all. You help by going back and informing our community. The other thing is, as this young lady is saying, if we put people in office who do not hear us, who do not work for us, why are we re-electing them?
Hello.
Year after year
Hello.
after year. They are here to serve us. We have to go back, gain momentum in our community, gain people in our community to help us with sound issues. Jails being put in North Memphis, a black community, our place. Black, this is 62% African American city. We will not keep standing down on issues that we do not agree with.
Yes.
That is what I want to say. And that is why we are here, to go back. We need to vote. The myth and mythology that voting does not count. Every vote counts.
Amen.
We need to help our young people and people in our community to understand that we have to stand up and, as African Americans, stop standing down. And all of us, stop standing down for the issues that are important in our community. Get others involved, not just individuals.
Because I don't think you guys heard the presentation. Voting's great. We can't wait on the next election.
No.
So it's great to vote, but let's hold them accountable between the elections. Don't wait on just voting.
Yeah.
You got to go to the meetings. You got to have the conversations with the elected officials. It's not just enough to go vote. You've got to do more than that.
I just want to say that I've really learned a lot from this collaborative effort today, but I got a question, and it's having to deal with DEI, which we all know is diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. And ma'am, are you a Shelby County? You say you work for the Shelby County. Okay, I know you can't do anything on the national level about the pushback of anti-DEI. What is the Shelby County government doing
as far as the pushback, as far as taking away the DEI programs?
So in Shelby County, you have your commissioners. They had at one point a minority work, there was an MWBE ordinance. That had to be repealed because the state required it. So they have done away with that ordinance, not because they wanted to, but because the state mandated that they had to. And I also think that that also manifested itself in the city government as well. So those programs, which were designed by African American leaders to ensure that African American business owners were actively engaged in the procurement process of both the city and the county. Those programs were wiped away because state law required it to be. However, your commissioners at both, the commissioners in the county, as well as I think the legislative bodies in the city, are now trying to figure out ways to still provide those opportunities. They're working with the Mid-South Minority Business Continuum that's led by Joselle Booker. They're also working with the Greater Black Chamber that's led by Ernest Strickland. So they are not publicly yet working with or outlining what those solutions are, but they are actively working internally to identify a different strategy so that African American people, not only business owners, but also your employees, people like me who work in government, that also there are ladders for young people to work through to become and replace people like me in government. So there are efforts. They're just not able to publicly say it right now because there's so much pressure from the federal and state level that dictates that they can't. And if they do, they've been challenged that even their federal and state dollars will be pulled back. Those are the dollars that pay for your paving, your public infrastructure, the programs that you enjoy here in Shelby County. Those programs have been threatened to be pulled back if there is evidence on either side, the city and or the county. And not just Memphis, I just want to make sure, that's all, Arlington, Lakeland, Collierville. If there is any evidence that there is emphasis being placed on DEI, there is specific state law and federal, they'll take those programs. So there is work. Sometimes they just can't publicize it, but there is an effort to address that. So I don't want to take up time, but that's the answer to your question.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Mary Harrison. This question is related to Memphis and Shelby County library system. I live in Bartlett, and as of January the 1st, 2025, if you live in Bartlett or one of the municipalities, Collierville, Germantown, etc., in order to borrow a book from a Memphis library, we have to pay a $50 annual fee. And I think it's just ridiculous, since I pay Shelby County taxes, that I would have to pay $50 to get a book from the Memphis library. You have greater access to books with the Memphis library system. It's not uncommon that I would request a book, and then I would be able to get the book from anywhere in Memphis. Now I'm limited to get books only from the Bartlett Library, which doesn't have a wide access to books unless I pay a $50 fee. It just seems like, since I'm paying Shelby County taxes, that I should be able to get a book from a Memphis library without paying $50. I can pay it, but it's just the principle of the thing. Thank you.
I don't know if we have that answer.
I actually do if you need it. I can talk to you offline if you like. Yes. So it's the City of Memphis libraries. They're owned by the city. The only county-owned library is the one on Hacks Cross Road. It's Shelby County. And Bartlett, the city of Bartlett pulled out.
Thank you.
So it wasn't the Shelby County, it wasn't Memphis, Bartlett, the city of Bartlett pulled out of the contract. So that's why that you're experiencing that.
That was something that nobody knew about.
Sure did.
And her information was actually done because a lot of people didn't know that.
I just wanted to say really quickly, like, that sounds like something that could be rallied about. That sounds like something we need more information about, which could be hopefully obtained, and then people can rally around. whether that's advocating Bartlett or advocating the city of Memphis. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Morning. There's been a lot of information things tossed in this meeting this morning, and it can get confusing. But what I would like for someone to do, if we could, to petition FCC, you know, those blue screens where they put information on the script for meetings and things to be held, they catalog the type of conversations that we're going to. It would be nice if they would put one of those blue screens on one of those neutral stations that we have, so that we'll know what type of meeting that will be held at a particular time. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, but we're talking about trying to communicate with the public. And I think we could kind of get with the catalog, who's responsible for what meetings going to be held, a particular person who's responsible for a particular issue that we are addressing this morning. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. We're going to get one last question, and then I'm going to have Ms. Katrina and Ms. Bethany to come up, and we're going to close out.
I'm Betty Boone with the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, and one of the things that I heard when we talked about Mason was people got together, went down, and made an impact. Yep. So, and all that we do, we can get information, and we can get people to work with us, but unless you're going to put in some personal time, you gotta, when the call to action comes, say we gotta go and stand in the hot sun, in the rain, in the heat. You know, that's how people power. What is people power? It's bodies showing up.
That's right.
Non-violently. Bodies showing up. I know in our church, the social justice ministry, we have gone to some places as a group and made some changes, all right? But we showed up, we kept calling and making, saying we will be there at that meeting. And we're talking about the zoo. I'm just using that as an example. So you gotta be willing. So when the call to action comes for you to do something, stop complaining. All right? Bartlett, get your people together in Bartlett and whatever, and go down and demand that they do something. We have to demand. It is time now for us to stop being on the sidelines and put some effort in it. People power. You don't have to want to talk. You just need to be there. Hold a sign. Do it. I mean, you say, well, that was a long time ago, but I'm going to tell you, if they don't see your face, if they don't see you in groups saying that we will no longer take this and we're going to take you out of office if you don't do what we say, and I'm not talking about 10 or 15 people. I'm talking about a massive group that you need to come. Everybody needs to rally around this. Just talking about it. I have a friend who's had something that's been in the court for almost 2 years now, waiting for the court to make a decision. But the project keeps going on. After a while, won't be even a need for it because the project will be built. But they have permits that are illegal. You see what I'm saying? So let's get together when the call comes out and you hear about it. Then put on your good walking shoes, something that's gonna keep you warm or cool, and bring your body out to help.
She's right.
So I can't say how proud I am of you people that are in this room. I just want to say thank you for being here, and thank you for expressing your concerns, and thank you for those who are willing to take action. And now we want to tell you another way, an opportunity for you to learn how to take action.
Well, good morning. Thank you all again for being here. I'm Katrina Hurd, part of the Social Justice Ministry, and this is Bethany King Wilkes. And as we talked about today, it doesn't stop here. We're not just a one-hit wonder. So what we have on the back table, as you leave, there are sign-up sheets. So if you're dedicated to this work, like Sister Boone said, we need your help every day. meeting on one Saturday when you come out, you get some snacks, and then you leave. We want to address these issues every day. And the way that we're going to do that, we have established an initiative at Mississippi Boulevard, which is engagement builders. So what we will be doing is having a program where we will invite speakers to come out. So some of you may be getting an invitation. But what we will do is we want to educate you on how to go to a school board meeting. What is the decorum when you go to that school board meeting? What are the questions that you ask? Also, too, it's not just enough just to go, but you want to take that information, you want to bring it back to your community and to your friends and educate people. Because a lot of times people bring issues, and I'm so glad that you talked about what is a school board member's responsibilities, what's a county commission's responsibility. Because a lot of times people say, well, why aren't you doing this? Because that's not their lane. That's not who they are. So we want to make sure that we educate ourselves, and we're going to be doing that with our initiatives. So please, if you are interested, please sign up on the sheets as you exit, and we will be contacting you with different monthly engagement opportunities where we will be educating you on how to go about making some changes in your community. We love all of this fighting you, and we want to see it on a continual basis, not just when something is in the media, but we want to do that each and every month. So we do appreciate you all. Thank you.
All right, so it's time to close. I want to give you a reminder. So we are going to be, this is the first of 4. So September 20th, we will be talking about environmental justice and racism at Children Rest Baptist Church, same time, 10 a.m. That's on McLemore. And that is Josh. Would you like to say anything about that?
At that meeting, we will have an opportunity. We'll be doing public comment training, so we'll actually be teaching you what that looks like and what you should include in your comments when you're talking about different issues in your community. So that will take place on September 20th. So if you would like to learn how to do that, we'll be also talking about XAI and just giving updates on what's happening over there as well.
And then October 20th, we will be at First Congregational Church on healthcare and food justice. And Betty, you have comments?
Yes, please come out. We know about food insecurity. We know about the changes that's being made in a lot of the programs that feed those. So we're going to talk both about health care. We know about all the different issues going on there. So please come out, and all of this is going to lead to some great mobilization to make things happen.
And then November 8th, there will be voter education and engagement at Cincinnati United Methodist Church. And is Ian still in the room?
Yes, I'm still here.
Comment, please, Ian.
Please come out and learn about everything that has something to do with voting. And we're going to talk about why it's important to be proactive and not reactive.
Come on. Very good. But thank you all. We started the meeting with prayer. I'd like to end it with prayer. And is there a minister in the room?
Yeah, Mike.
Right there on your panel.
That's right, Miss Bond and Dr. Bond just thought I was talking too much, so she didn't want me to stand back up. Let's all stand. Heavenly Father, we call on you this morning, Lord, and ask that you look upon each and every one of us as we depart this place. Let us leave this place with positivity, with intentionalism, as we go out into this Memphis heat in our communities, in our neighborhoods, throughout our city as we disperse. Let us be the seed that helps plant and grow and causes things to happen with intention and with action. Lord, we ask that you allow us to find one another, unify with one another, grow with one another so that we can, in numbers, let our voices be heard. Let the county commissioners hear us. Let the city council people hear us. Let the county mayor hear us. Let the city mayor hear us. Let the governor hear us. But let our voices be loud enough to where they hear us through those walls and those barriers and those challenges. Lord, we ask that you put it on our hearts to move forward our city and all the issues that we know that might be plaguing our city. This is a great city, and we ask that you allow us to come forth with the strategies and those mechanisms we can put forth, those tools that we can use to go higher, to take our city higher. We ask that you protect us and cover us as we leave this place here today. Touch the leaders and those that are moving faith and action forward. We ask these things in your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Please, I would like to see, thank you.